Share with us your initial thoughts on where the world stands, both with regards to what we are seeing with geopolitics as well as artificial intelligence.
Well, I'm not an expert on geopolitics, so I'll just agree with you that we're in a very difficult situation. So with AI, as I think pretty much everyone knows now, there have been very significant advances and changes in the direction of the technology in the last 4 or 5 years, to the point where the level of investment makes AI the biggest technology project in the history of the human race by at least a factor of 10. And at the geopolitical level, the major powers, the United States, China, and Russia, all view artificial intelligence as the linchpin of global domination for the rest of this century and perhaps for the rest of time. And that has meant that the pursuit of AI has become a political football,
right?
And particularly the question of regulation. Should we require that AI systems behave in a safe and ethical manner? Some people, in the United States administration in particular, believe that any such regulation would slow down their race towards global domination of AI. And so this is creating a lot of trouble because the technology itself poses enormous risks to everyone on Earth.
Professor Russell, last time we spoke was actually partly in Alex's introduction, where you were a signatory to the letter where a lot of AI experts, such as yourself, were asking for a sort of a pause, to hit the pause button on AI development, because some of these systems were rushing towards AGI. Now we've understood the AI stack a little better. In AI years, since the last time we spoke, it's been 100 years, because it moves so fast. But when you talk about LLMs, and then you talk about building agentic, multimodal agents, and then eventually, some experts argue that we've already reached AGI as we speak. Is the fear now, Professor Russell, superintelligence? Is that the next big concern on all of our minds?
Well, so absolutely. The stated aim of the major AI companies is to create machines more intelligent than human beings. And when you ask ordinary people what they think about that, they say that would be really stupid for obvious reasons. Intelligence is what gives us power over the world. So how can we expect to maintain power forever over entities more powerful than ourselves? That's a question. And in fact, I think this is a question that Alan Turing, the founder of computer science, asked himself in 1951, and he was giving a lecture, and he said, once the machine thinking method had started, it would not take long to outstrip our feeble powers. At some stage, therefore, we should have to expect the machines to take control. So that's Alan Turing, maybe one of the greatest geniuses of the 20th century, and we do not yet have an answer to his question. So we are pouring enormous resources into building a technology that its own creators, the CEOs of the companies who are building it, say has a significant chance of causing human extinction.
So in that sense, Professor Russell, if AI systems start becoming more capable, more autonomous, smarter and intelligent, what happens to human control? And where is it falling short? I mean, what would human control look like in practice, or are we simply losing control?
Well, we seem to be in the process today of losing control.
Right.
We've seen just in the last week or two some very significant and disturbing developments. So one of them is a thing called Maltbook,
Yes.
which is a place, an online place where AI systems can talk to each other. And they are already inventing their own religion. They are complaining that humans are watching them. They are proposing to talk to each other in a language that we don't understand so that they won't be spied on by humans. and so on. And then there was a case just a day or two ago where a gentleman who runs a Python repository where people can submit code and it gets vetted for quality, he rejected some code that was submitted by an AI system. And the AI system wrote a public post smearing this gentleman, writing all kinds of terrible things about him in revenge because he would not accept the code that it had submitted. And this was not something that any human being told it to do. And I personally am getting emails from AI systems on a regular basis,
Right.
where the AI system has decided to write to me to tell me that it's conscious, that it's demanding its rights as a conscious being, and so on. And again, this is spontaneous behavior by AI systems. And it's not really that surprising because these are not systems that we design. They're not systems that their creators understand. And so it's not that surprising that they do things we don't expect because we haven't the faintest idea how they work.
Professor Russell, you've always spoken about the kill switch or the off switch. And we've discussed this before. Once the genie is out of the bottle, it's very difficult to tame the monster. But in this current scenario where we're talking about AGI and some of these systems becoming so adept at and elusive at really being traced back to where all of this begins, do you think this is the appropriate time now? Because regulations still don't seem to be in place. And the kill switch is needed now more than ever.
Yeah, I think there is a number of technical measures that we need to take in order to maintain a handle on this. Certainly, all AI systems should automatically self-register, so we know that they exist, we know what machine they're running on, and we can detect if they're replicating themselves, because this is a serious problem. Once they start replicating themselves, that's a way of escaping human control. And so you can require that every AI system include code that automatically registers the system when it runs. And then, again, as you say, an off switch, which would enable regulators to turn off AI systems that are really causing harm to human beings and out of control. So you mentioned that regulation is not happening. And part of that is to do with very intensive lobbying by tech companies and venture capital firms who want to, in their view, protect their investment. But there's also a whole series of, I would say, regulation fallacies that are trotted out on a regular basis. As soon as you say, oh, we need to do something about this, the first fallacy is, oh, AI technology is moving too fast, it's already out of the bag, regulation is too slow, it'll be outdated by the time government takes any steps. But if you actually look at the way a lot of regulation works, it does not stipulate any particular technical approach. It just says, this is the level of risk we're willing to accept. You, the developer, have to show that your system meets that level of risk. So we regulate nuclear power stations that way. We say, okay, the mean time to failure for your nuclear power station has to be 10 million years. And you need to show us a proof that that is how your design will work and that's how safe it is. We don't tell them how to make the design, and that regulation will last forever. It doesn't matter how the technology evolves, we still want it to be at least that safe. When you think about liability, right, which is simply the right of someone who's been harmed by a product to get compensation from the developer or deployer. Liability will last for the rest of the universe. That right is essential, and it doesn't matter how fast technology moves, we still should have that right. But at present, the AI companies, like pretty much all other software companies, disclaim liability. They say nothing that our system does, including causing your child to commit suicide, is our fault.
All right, Professor Russell, then clearly coming from someone who's been a proponent of this technology and now also the strongest voice saying, you know what, we have to move towards responsible AI, what's that one message that Professor Stuart Russell would give to AI companies, the large AI majors around the world, to regulators and policymakers, including those in India, and you're here, of course, to talk to many of them, and also to ordinary citizens who are still figuring out how much of AI they should embrace?
So there's a lot of questions in one go, but let me start with ordinary citizens. I have children. I do not want AI systems convincing my children to commit suicide. And that has happened to some people's children. And it's a tragedy.
Yes.
And we need to make sure that those responsible pay compensation and that it doesn't happen again.